Hello, and welcome to Rogue Reviews 7. Yes, you guessed it, 7 Wonders. This is an amazing game. It has won the most awards of any other game that I know. And the idea of it is there's lots going on at once. So for those people who like multiple victory conditions, this is a game for you. In terms of what you can achieve in this game, you can go for military strength. You can go for deluxe buildings. You can go for fantastic resources, amazing architecture. You can even go for resource trading and become the Baron or the King or the ruler or the Emperor of all that you survey. The idea is that this is a game that you will come back to again and again and again. The mechanics are really simple, and yet the strategy is so deep. Now, this is a game that I would recommend for everybody to have in their house. There is a popular 2-player version as well, 7 Wonders Duel. We have played that quite a few times, but we prefer the family edition for obvious reasons. However, both games are a really, really good buy, and there are plenty of expansion packs available for them both. Now, let's have a closer look, shall we, and see if 7 Wonders is a game for you. So what happens in a game of 7 Wonders? Let's see then. The mechanics of the game are very, very simple. It's basically play one, pass. So you have in your hand a collection of cards. At the beginning of each round, there are 3 rounds called ages. You deal out all the available cards to the players. Now, depending upon how many players you have a different number of cards. Now, this is really, really good because this game can play up to 7 different players, which is a real rarity and a massive treat to be able to offer. So, for example, in your hand, you might have cards that allow you military might. You might have cards that give you simple resources. For example, this is 1 stone. Or you might have resources that basically give you a choice. This could be a stone or a clay. You have certain manufactured goods such as papyrus, silk and glass. You have buildings. Now these are especially useful because when you build a building, you may be able to get another building for free later on. And this applies to the other cards as well. Some cards allow you better trading between the players on either side of you. This can be very important because money is scarce. And finally, signs tokens. Now, these signs cards can be incredibly powerful because they stack according to the square rule. For example, at the end of the game, 1 is worth 1, 2 is worth 2 squared, 3 is worth 3 squared. In other words, your points can rack up amazingly, but they are harder to collect. So, what happens is that you choose, for example, a card that you wish to collect. Now, for example, cards that have no cost in the upper left can be basically bought for free. You would simply take them and place them behind your wonder. Now this is where the game has a certain element of strategy because there are 7 different wonders, fairly obviously according to the name, and each one gives you a certain starting bonus, for example, either manufactured goods or natural goods, and then at the end, at the bottom of them, if you build stages of your wonder, you achieve certain bonuses. Now in super easy mode, this can be as simple as you get lots of points, or you get lots of points. It could be things like you get gold, for example, or you get certain resources, certain extra cards. Here, for example, you get a mixture of points and gold. There's an A side and a B side to each card. Generally, the A sides are simpler and offer sort of more beginner level strategy, whereas B sides are a bit more complex. So, to be honest, what we've learned very quickly is Alexandria is easy mode. Now, for example, if you built your first stage of the Wonder 4 roads, you would just get 3 victory points. To do so, you would need 2 wood. If you built the second stage, you would win 2 more units of military might, and you would need 3 clay. Finally, if you built your third stage, you would need 4 gold, but it would get you 7 victory points. Now, the way that you do this is basically take a card from your hand that you do not wish to actually have active and place it underneath. So it's a little bit of a sacrifice in terms of you don't get whatever benefit this card is. However, the rewards, hopefully, will outweigh the costs. And obviously, there's different versions depending upon which version that you play. So as the game goes on, you're going to be building up a certain amount of useful artifacts to be able to use. For example, you might have certain resources to get to use. You might have some military forces to be able to conquer other players at the end of each round. You may be gaining signs tokens. You may have certain extra things that give you bonuses. And these kind of all get placed in different positions underneath your wonder, depending upon, of course, how you are playing. And of each turn, if you look carefully at the bottom of the card, you pass the remaining cards around according to the direction. For example, round 1 goes this way, round 2 goes anti-clockwise, and round 3 is going clockwise again. The other interesting thing about round 3 is that you deal in certain guild cards, which are incredibly powerful cards that will give you lots and lots of bonuses towards the end of the game if you are lucky enough to get them. However, I'm sure you can see they're quite hard to get. Now, a big part of the actual mechanics in the game as you're going along is paying for your cards. Now, most of them will require a certain amount of resources which you have available. Each one of these counts for 1. For example, this player here has 1 gold, 2 stone, or 1 gold, 1 stone, and 1 clay available. What happens if they need some papyrus, for example? Well, they must pay the other player. Now, you can only buy goods from players on either side of you. You can't basically go diagonally across the table, for example, so that limits your strategy a little bit. Money is very, very scarce in this game, and it's very, very powerful. Normally, to buy a good from a joining player costs 2 gold, and you only start the game with 3 gold. So, certain cards, for example, like the marketplace, which reduces the cost of trading other things, can be very, very useful early on in the game, because you will generally have a certain amount of trade between the players as the game goes on. Now, in the second age, the cards become more powerful. For example, a 2-point building in round 1, a 4-point building in round 2. You might have variable resources. You may get certain points. For example, this card allows you to get gold instantly depending upon the number of resources you've got and the resources on either side of you. They're also very, very useful because you start seeing the buildings that you can get for free, which is great because it means you do not have to pay these costs. Especially good if you don't have those resources or don't want to pay your neighbours for them. So by the end of the game, you will have a huge collection of different cards scattered around the place. You might have some of your wonders completed. Now, at the end of each age, you compare your military strength to those of your neighbours. If you are weaker, you of course lose -1 points. At the first age, you gain +1 point each. Second age, +3 points. And third age, +5 points. Now, this means that military might is a given strategy to go for. And that's another thing about this game. There's lots of different ways to play. If you want to focus on concentrating on blue buildings, you can do. If you want to focus on military might, you can do. If you want to focus on collecting science tokens, you can do. This game can be as complicated or as simple as you like. However, what we've found in lots and lots and lots of plays, because this is one of the games that we play a huge amount in our family, is that you need a mixture. Generally, you can't win by just doing one particular type of resource. You might get some huge points in one area, but that will not be enough to win the game. So overall, a good mixture of strategies is what counts. Beginner level. This game is very, very easy to pick up based on the mechanics of basically play one, pass the rest. So there's no particularly difficult strategy to learn in terms of actually playing each round. So it all comes down to strategy. This is a game that's very, very quick. A game for ours takes about half an hour, 40 minutes tops. So it's really, really good in terms of you can start it off early on, or if you want to basically play a second game of it and kind of get your own back, that's not outside the realm of possibility either. It's a very, very good game, and we keep coming back to it. Yes, there are expansion packs. We haven't got any yet, but we will probably end up buying some just to add a bit more variety to the game. However, we've had this game for years, and we still keep playing the base version because it is so versatile. Now, in terms of expert players who've been playing for a very, very long time, they still keep coming back to the game and finding different combinations, playing different wonders, playing the A version, playing the B version. A 4-player game is very different from a 2-player game. We've not played a 7-player game yet. However, I'm sure that's very, very complex because there's a certain amount of resources that are available. And for example, if you start off with a hand of 7 cards and you're playing, for example, 2 or 3 players, you know that a lot of those cards in your hand will come back to you next round. However, when you're playing a 5 or 6 or 7 person game, most of those cards might be gone. So if you want them, you've got to get them when they're available. Whereas, for example, if you're playing a 3-player game, you know that there's a good chance that half of those cards will be coming back to you the next round. So if there's 2 cards that you're arming between, it's not a terrible choice because there's probably going to be more good ones left. Now, what you'll find is that your strategy adapts as you go along. For example, if you find that you end up buying certain cards more and more and more, you will find yourself running out of money. So certain cards, for example, like this, which just give you top-ups on gold, might be a good choice. And again, it seems like you're almost wasting a turn because you're not achieving a new building or a new resource. However, in the long run, it is worthwhile having a certain amount of money because towards the end of the game, there are some fabulously expensive buildings that will give you lots of points. 6 points, 6 points, where are we? 5, 8. The palace needs a little bit of everything, as I'm sure you can see, and therefore it is immensely hard to get. If you've basically got enough resources by this point, or got nice relationships with your neighbours and certain trading alliances, this is possible. The only other way of getting this is to, for example, pick up the card that says you get the Pantheon for free next round. So you will come back to the game, you will try it different ways. There is lots of freshness in this game, and it's so many different choices that you can make, that you can play 2 games completely differently with different people, or even with the same people, 2 games can be very different. Because of this, this game has a very, very long lifetime at our table. Right. Let's consider a few final thoughts. So, Seven Wonders, and perhaps Seven Wonders Duel. Could they be a game for you? Well, in terms of the level of strategy here, in terms of the beginner's approach, plus the expert approach, plus the range of different ways of playing this game, I would say, yes, this is a very, very good game to have in your collection. You will often find people at most games club, most events, who will happily sit down and play this with you and teach you how to play it as well. And I'm sure every group has their own slightly different way of doing it. In terms of what we enjoy about it, it's the multiple victory conditions, the different levels of approach. So, for example, my son always wished to start off collecting as many armies as he could do, and he was a fantastic, he'd have like 13 armies by the end of the game, and he loved that. But he found that he didn't win very often. So we started to basically learn and try out new approaches. So we got some buildings, and he got some armies, and he got some different resources. And then after a while, he started to win, which was amazing. Because obviously, in terms of the approach for children, approach for families, approach for adults, approach for friends, this is a game that you learn, and the more you play, the better you get. So there's an immense sense of satisfaction. The other nice thing about basically being able to track it is if you look back over your previous scores, you can see just how much better you get. For example, the first time Daniel played, he got 46 points. The next time he played, he got 58 later on. And then basically the scores keep climbing. So you can see over time that this is a game that you'll get better at and you will enjoy. And you will come back to this game. This game has a very, very long lifespan on your shelf. In terms of the level of detail that's possible, in terms of, if you want to, the expansion packs, there is more that you can keep adding to this game. We find that when we play Duel, it's a nice experience. You basically lay the cards out in a lattice form and you basically reveal more and more cards each turn. It's more money heavy because it basically costs more to buy the cards, but also in terms of the variable money score, depending on the resources, that throws another level of complexity in. Plus you have multiple different new resources and ways of running the Wonder system. So this is a fantastic game to have in your collection, especially as a travel version. And in terms of a 2-player game, you will come back to this quite a lot. In terms of a family game, Seven Wonders is great, and I would thoroughly recommend it. So, thank you very much for joining us. I hope this has given you a bit of an insight into a new way of playing the hobby. If you want to get in contact with us, as always, you can find us at rogueartistcreations.com. You can find us on Facebook at Rogue Artist Creations. Our Twitter handle is at RogueACreations, and you can reach me at gmfirst@rogueartistcreations.com. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We love doing these videos. Please give us comments, please follow us, please subscribe. Any exciting ideas you've got, any advice you want to give us, please do. We're in this for a long run, hopefully. We're going to really enjoy this. We've got lots more coming up. So stay tuned and we'll see you next time.